So this is my summary of Final Fantasy reviews from Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 8, because those are the games that I played. And if you've seen other reviews that I made, you know, in the old ones to the new ones, I've flip-flopped on opinions a lot. So if you see that, just remember the newest one is the one I'm actually that is my concluding reviews, because I often said some stupid stuff in the past that I don't necessarily agree with now, because I have really gone more through it now, so I kind of have more of a better understanding of what I think is good about them or not. So so if you are confused about that, just ignore them, because some of them are very stupid. So but yeah, here's my concluding reviews. First off, Final Fantasy 1. I'm mainly gonna review the PS1 version, but it's basically the same difficulty, or maybe harder than the NES. But at least my review is that the original difficulty is kind of like Brave Sir Robin from Mighty Python sketch, because I wouldn't say that this is a difficult game, but it's more like a runaway simulator, because you basically are just picking your fights. And fighting the strong ones, the one that you can get away with fighting, and you get lots of experience points. So this is I don't think this is a balanced game originally. I would sort of, if I could change it, because people say that the easy mode, or the definitive difficulty that you have on Steam or other versions of Final Fantasy 1, people say that that's too easy. But it's really not. It's more fair, actually. And it's not the original difficulty is not hard. It's just stupid. I mean, one way you could have the original difficulty and still feel challenging is have it be like this. You have White Mage that has the least magic points, and then you have the Red Mage that has the middle amount of magic points, and then you have Black Mage that has the highest amount of magic points. So that way you can actually use much magic point to attack multiple enemies, and it will still feel fair. You can still have you can still at least attack enemies and fight them in multiples. You wouldn't basically run away like a coward. But that's what I think about Final Fantasy 1. It feels like a joke. It feels like it was sort of made by people who played Monty Python or something. I mean, people who watch Monty Python, the sketch about Brave Sir Robin, because it basically feel like you're basically just running away. I wouldn't say that difficult. That's just stupid. It's basically you know, running away. So till then, I actually think that the easy mode, or the definitive difficulty as Square Enix has it now, I actually think that one is better. So I actually don't mind that one. I don't think those are bad. So yeah, in terms of that, I think that my review of Final Fantasy 1 is that I do think it's way more unbalanced than the ones after it. So I will honestly just recommend playing it in a sense after Final Fantasy 4. You know, like play 2, 3, and 4, and then 1. That's my recommendation, at least, if you want to play the original difficulty, at least. I mean, if you want to play the definitive difficulty, then okay, but I would not recommend playing it as it was originally, because it's very unbalanced in my view. So that's my review of it. And I would give sort of like if I would give a rating for it. My rating for Final Fantasy 1 is let me think here. In terms of the NES or PS1, I mean, I would at least say the NES. I would say maybe 5 out of 10 would be my review for it, because I do think it's unfair. I don't think it's very well designed game. But in terms of PS1, I mean, it did introduce the whole original and versus the better difficulty mode, which is easy mode. So maybe a 7 out of 10 on that one, just because you have that option. So yeah, so NES I gave 5 out of 10, and the PS1 I gave a 7 out of 10. So that's my rating. Now for Fantasy 2, well, I don't really have anything negative to say about this one. I give it a 10 out of 10 actually. I do think this is a very well made game, because I do think I mean, PS1 at least. I haven't played the NES or Famicom because you know, I don't live in Japan, so I can't play that one. But the PS1 at least, assuming that this is as original as it is. Um, what I would say why this is good is because I do think it kind of engages you with playing the game as you level up in very innovative ways. For example, if you want to, you know, level up your HP meter, health meter, you basically are on the brink of death, and then you beat the enemy. Like, that's one way you can level up your health meter, or you can use your weapons or magic, and you get stronger. It has a very realistic feeling to it. It's very engaging. It's very thrilling. It's a very cool game. I really do like this system a lot. I just think it's very engaging. I really do like this. I just think it's the best so far of old school Final Fantasy games. It's very well designed, which is an unpopular opinion online, and I don't get why people hate Final Fantasy 2. I mean, the only criticism I heard is that, oh, it's different, and that's it. They don't say, okay, what's why don't you like it? It's more like it's different. I mean, and some people say that criticism is that you may face enemies that you aren't supposed to beat yet. I mean, I guess you can argue that, but it's that kind of is why I find this fun to me, because you kind of are surprised, and that's how you realize, oh, okay, so there's some way to beat this. So beating yourself up and getting stronger, I think it's kind of cool actually. But I guess in terms of level design, I guess that's kind of a valid criticism. But I don't mind it, so I'm perfectly fine with it. But yeah, it's awesome. I guess the only versions I wouldn't recommend of Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2 is PSP versions. They look horrible. They look zoomed in. It's awful. I don't get what people say or even recommended those versions. I think they look the worst on that one. I can't stand playing PSP versions of Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Yeah, outside that, 10 out of 10 of Final Fantasy 2. It's a great game. And now, I'm gonna make some separate reviews here on Final Fantasy 3 and 4 versus the 3D remake of 3 and 4, because they are kind of different in the experience that they are. Just a second, I'm gonna shut down the Discord here. But yeah, basically, I'm gonna start with the original 3 and 4. I've been playing basically the Steam version of 3, the original, the Pixel Remaster, because that's the only one I can play legally. And by the way, I would actually recommend getting Pixel Remasters of Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I wouldn't recommend Pixel Remasters of 5. And I'm gonna assume they're gonna screw up 6 too. But I can't comment on that one because it hasn't gotten out yet. But yeah, I just hated how they screwed up the intro in 5. So I'm gonna come to that one later. But now let's talk about 3. But yeah, in general, just get Pixel Master of 1 to 4. They are awesome, and they improved music and such. So they are very good made. I do have some nitpicks though, but that's another story. In terms of Fantasy 3, the original, it's pretty engaging. It's pretty awesome. I do like how it looks. I do like the music. I do like the atmosphere of it. It can be a little bit how to say it. I don't think it's as engaging maybe as 2, 4, and 5 in my view. But I do think the original is very engaging. I mean the way that they made the Pixel Master at least. Or even Famicom, that one looks pretty awesome too. But I guess the more thing to say is it kind of is lacking somewhat compared to 2, 4, and 5. I think just in terms of how it's in terms of what your goal is and such. I do think there is something that may be a little bit too archaic, but there may be some people who like that though. because it doesn't really have much of a story, really. I mean, there is certain story, but it's not like it's relevant to the gameplay often. So some may like that though. But yeah, I do think there's more engagement in 2, 4, and 5 over 3. But 3 is awesome though. It's in its own way. At least now I'm talking about the original 3 and not the 3 remake, which I will talk about soon. And now I can talk about Final Fantasy 4 original. Yeah, that one is pretty cool too. It's pretty awesome adventure. This one has some very much story-driven gameplay. It's done in a way that it doesn't feel like a story really. I mean, its story is there, but it doesn't feel like it tries to push it too much on you. So it still is very new on the story basis. But this one kind of pushes it more over what 2 did. But it's very good gameplay wise. But your characters are more locked to certain classes though. Instead of you having more options of picking your own class, which was more normal in 1, 2, and 3, because you can kind of pick your own adventure of class. 4 kind of locked you more into one class and one character to kind of focus more on the story basis. But it still do feel like it tried to reward the gameplay of it. It's very much locked, but it's not bad. I do think there's some cool stuff to do here. So yeah, it doesn't sacrifice the gameplay too much. I do think this is a pretty cool game in its own way. It's presented very cool. I think. Yeah. So what is my review of what's my rating of Final Fantasy 3 and 4 original? You know, I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 on both of those. That will be my rating at least. Yeah, so I do think that they are very good. I do think they still hold up in a sense. So 9 out of 10 will be my rating of the original Final Fantasy 3 and 4. And now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the 3D remakes of Final Fantasy 3 and 4. My recommendation: don't play the PC port ever. Just don't, because they are ported based on the actual mobile port of Final Fantasy 3 and 4 3D remakes. I mean, everything that has been ported in existence after the DS, it has always been mobile port. I mean, even the PSP is based on a mobile port. You can tell by just looking at the altar cave outside and how bleak and dark it looks. You know, when you just look at the outside, everything just looks so lazy. Even though the PSP version, it doesn't have that bright blue color when you look at it. But it's also, I mean, PSP I guess kind of tried, but I just don't think it should be rewarded enough, just because it did something right. But I'm gonna give it a little credit, I guess, but not too much. So basically, what you want to play this on is an original DS. Not I wouldn't recommend this on a DSi or a DS Lite. I haven't played the DS Lite, but I do think it's the same problem as a DSi. But basically, not DSi, not 3DS, but play it on an original DS. 2 reasons for this. One, it kind of looks and feels coolest, and maybe I have 3 reasons actually. But it kind of looks cool. It kind of feels right on playing on the original DS, the tank version of it. And 2, it has good controls. So the D-pad is very well made, and it feels so right on this one. And the 3rd one is you can kind of shut it off, like when you autosave, it actually feels very right on the original DS, because when you quick save, it tells you to turn it off. So you just click the power button and boom, it goes off. Like it's very awesome that way. It's probably the best way to experience the game, in my view at least. And then not to mention, it also it just looks right on the original DS. It felt like it was designed in mind, and it doesn't really feel as fun on the DSi or 3DS. At least in my view, I just didn't like playing on that one. So basically, if I were you, I would just not play it on a 3DS or a DSi. It just doesn't feel right to me. But yeah, the graphics on the original DS is pretty cool. it's very fun. So basically, if I were to give a review of Final Fantasy 3D remake of 3 and 4, on the original DS, I will give a 9 out of 10, the DS version at least. But I will not recommend playing the DSi or 3DS with this game in mind. I will get the original DS. It sounds better. I mean, I just like how it sounds with Cecil and the cutscenes in 4, and I just like how it looks. Yeah, I don't like how it sounds or looks on the DSi or 3DS. I just think the brightness of it just kind of ruins the mood of playing it. But on the original DS, it's pretty cool, and it's just so much fun to just shut the game down when you just want to do something else. So at least the DS version of Final Fantasy 3 and 4 3D remake, yeah, I will give. What was my rating again? I would give a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I think it's very awesome. I mean, I guess I could give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm just gonna give a 9 out of 10. It's pretty fun to play when you're bored, so it's kind of like a thing that you just pick up on the original DS and you just put it on. It's awesome. But PSP, my review for this is 4+ out of 10, and the PC ports 4 out of 10, and that's it. The reason why I give PSP Plus is because for its flaw, they try to have original OSD and kind of extra bonus, but it didn't save the port. It's just bad. I didn't enjoy one bit playing this one on PSP. No way. Basically, they should have sort of done a better job at porting for Fantasy 3 and 4 3D remakes on PC and such. I mean, what I like about the original DS is you can actually look at the map when you're playing. I mean, what sucks about the 3D remake on Final Fantasy 3 on the DS is that you can't unlock everything because it uses a gimmick of Wi-Fi, so you kind of have to send a letter to someone else online just to unlock everything. So that's kind of sucks, but it is a definite version to play it as, so it's really worth it if you want the best experience. But yeah, the PC and the PSP I would not recommend. It's just not fun to just look up a map and it just feels way cheaper than the original production of the DS. It just feels like there's way more effort put on the original DS. I mean, this is also the argument that everything that goes to phone, it turns to shit when you port it. I mean, this is also true if you have even seen the GTA Definitive Edition, more like the bugged edition if you ask me. But I mean, I heard that they are trying to fix it out now though. But you understand that it just turns to crap. Everything that is ported to a phone or have a phone in mind, the quality of the game instantly decreases. It's terrible, and that's what Final Fantasy 3 and 4 3D remakes was about. Originally it was well made on a DS. It's very cool. It was made in the DS in mind. It's just very fun. And then someone decided, hey, let's port this on phone. And then someone else was like, hey, let's take this phone port and port to everything else on a PSP, on a PC. Yeah, and you have the interface. It looks like crap. It's horrible. It's god awful. I mean, older Final Fantasy games on PS1 had a way better way of making it feel right. Like for example, in Final Fantasy 7, you could actually change the map so that you can zoom out on the map and look at it. So you can have a mini map and you can have it bigger. It's not like you had to either have it enlarged or just have the map itself something you have to take up just to look at it. I mean, I guess it's fine to look at the map if the game is designed well, but obviously the way that they designed the phone ports made it so unenjoyable. It just wasn't fun in comparison to the original DS remake, where you could just look at the map on the other screen and just play it on the other. It was just way more funner and way better designed. Yeah, so they could have done a better job when porting it to PC. They could have done so much better with the interface than they did. It just doesn't feel like there was a lot of effort put into it in terms of porting it. It was just broken. In my view, it just felt very cheap. it felt like a very downgrade cheap phone game. It didn't feel like an actual quality game made on a device. It just felt so cheap. So that's why. So basically, if you want to play it, it's awesome, but only on the original DS. And I would recommend the original hardware, the DS hardware, the tank one. I would not recommend to play on a DSi or 3DS. In my view, so on the original DS, the original DS version of Final Fantasy 3 and for 3D remakes, that version, 9 out of 10. But for a PSP and PC, for the PSP it's 4 plus out of 10, but for a PC it's a 4 out of 10. So that's my final rating for those games. And I guess, and now I can talk about the Final Fantasy 4 the after years. And I have not played the original one, but that one kind of seems cool. But I can't rate that one because I haven't played it. So yeah. But I have played the PC port on the Steam, and that's the one I'm gonna give an exception for, because that one is technically a phone game, but it feels like there was actually effort into making this an own thing. Like if you play this on PC, it feels way more like it actually has a lot of effort put into this PC port. I mean, it's because it was originally made for a phone, and that's maybe why they didn't make it so lazy as compared to the just porting it, the phone port of 3D remakes of 4 and 3, as it was, and that one was very cheap and very bad. But the after years on PC, I think that was awesome. I actually give that a 9 out of 10 too. Yeah. So, but one reason though. Guess what? It has a minimap in the after years. So yeah, that tells you something. They actually cared about making this actually good. So yeah. So basically, if you have a PC, just get the after years on that one. It's actually worth getting. But if you're gonna get Final Fantasy 3 and 4 on PC, just get the Pixel Remaster. It's a way better choice. And don't get just don't bother with the free remix of that one. It's garbage. Of 3 remix on PC of 4 and 3. Yeah. So yeah, in my view, it's awesome. It kind of adds new gameplay element to it in Final Fantasy 4 the after years, which has some mixed views on it. I mean, I do like new things, so I don't mind it so much. But yeah, it can be kind of hard if you're a completionist though. But I find this game very fun, so I didn't mind too much. And yeah, it's definitely harder than 3 and 4 original, but it's a very cool game. I like it a lot. So to just find stuff out in this game, yeah, I will give it a 9 out of 10. This game, the 3D version at least on Steam. It's awesome. Get it. That's my recommendation. Okay, so now for Final Fantasy 5. Yeah, I know I'm gonna talk about the Pixel Remaster because I will not recommend getting that one. It's like a weird thing. It's like Square finally gets something right with the Pixel Remasters, and then they just went completely 180 and just screwed it up. Final Fantasy 5 I would not recommend, and I don't think you should get Final Fantasy 6 either if they do the intro like they did with Final Fantasy 5. Because, okay, so I'm gonna mention why I think the Pixel Remaster of Final Fantasy 5 is bad. Because in the original Famicom SNES, I mean, I didn't port it over to Europe or USA back then, but on the Famicom at least, you had like a credit screen, so you can see who developed it, and it looks pretty cool. You have this guy called Butts who is riding a chocobo, and the credits roll. It looks pretty awesome on the original. It looks very engaging and fun, but in the Pixel Remaster, it's just a Square Enix logo. That's all it shows. It's like, why even bother doing it if you're not gonna, try to have some credits there? Like, come on, give me some names. I mean, it must look. It's supposed to look awesome. It's not supposed to look so engaging. Like, why even bother? So yeah, that's why I don't recommend getting the Pixel Remaster one. It's just so disappointing because of that. It really ruins the game for me. So yeah, and that's why I'm skeptical of Final Fantasy 6 Pixel Remaster 2 because of that. I mean, imagine if you walk to Nosh and you see the Square Enix logo and nothing else. So yeah, I'm skeptical of that one. But if I'm wrong though, then you should get it. But so far at least. Basically, if you want to get Final Fantasy 5, I would recommend getting a PS1 port of it. Don't get the don't get the Pixel Remaster of Final Fantasy 5. I actually asked for a refund because it was terrible. I felt ripped up, ripped off, because they just couldn't fix such an easy thing. I mean, why in the world did they decide on doing that? But yeah, I would honestly, I would just get the PS1 version. On the original hardware. I mean, that's what they were ported to in terms of the original soundtrack and all that. And yeah, I do think in terms of the gameplay and such, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I do think it holds up very well for us Super Nintendo graphics. It looks pretty fun and engaging. It kind of has a cool music track, and yeah, it's a very beautiful looking game. So in terms of the game itself, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's a very engaging game. But yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say really. It's just a fun game. It feels like sort of like a family and serious game in a sense. So it just feels like a fun game that we get for your kids or something. Yeah, it's a very engaging and fun game. I mean, maybe not for kids entirely, but I guess you kind of can ignore some stuff you don't understand yet. So, but yeah, it's a very fun game. 9 out of 10. That's my rating for it. And Final Fantasy 6. That one is gonna be harder because I don't like 6. Let me think a little bit on that one. What's my rating on 6? You know, I do kind of change my mind a little on 6 because mainly because how to say it. I do think the main villain was a dumb idea at first, but then I looked up that you know, in ancient Egypt they had clowns as priests, so that kind of made me laugh a little bit. So maybe it wasn't such a bad idea after all. But I only can accept the main villain if the voice is Nicolas Cage. I won't accept it otherwise. If it's like a stupid voice, then I kind of hate it. But yeah, that's the only way I can be okay with it. But yeah, I'm kind of have been a little bit more tolerant now of it, sort of at least. But yeah, I'm kind of. But I don't think they saved the enemy design though. Even if I kind of have a change opinion on that one. So yeah, in terms of how you look like midgets, you know, your characters. I mean, 4 had somewhat like that, but I didn't think it overdid it too much, so I kind of can give 4 a pass. But 6, however, I can't look past it. I don't like how you look like midgets fighting realistic-looking enemies, like human-looking enemies. This is not monsters or anything. No, it's actually human that look humanistic, and you fight them while looking like midgets. I can't look past that. It's too much. This game overdid it way too much. So honestly, because of the artwork and the design they went with, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. I didn't like it at all. I don't think 4. I don't think 6 was good. I think it annoyed me. It just annoyed me to look at it. I don't think it was fun or engaging. I mean, I think it annoyed me more than actually getting an enjoyment out of me. So for me, if in terms of a review, I would just give Final Fantasy 6 a 4 out of 10 rating. I didn't like it at all. It was just the way the design was, the way that the art looked, how you look so out of place. I just don't understand how that was a good idea on people who developed this game. Really, like, what were they thinking? I mean, some people try to argue, well, it was limitations. Well, you had Phantasy Star games before that. You know, I mean, that was also a limited game, but you know, they didn't. You know, they could still make them look human versus human. So that's no excuse. And I mean, if people try to argue limitation, then okay, then don't design realistically looking enemies. Then if it looks out of place. Like, what's even the point? If you don't look like you add up to the enemy you're fighting in terms of realism and humans, I mean, just make them look like you. like a little square thing, you know, in terms of pixels. So yeah, that's no excuse. It was just lazy, I think. I just think this was a lazy design. So yeah, 4 out of 10. That's my review of Final Fantasy 6. I don't like it. And now now Final Fantasy 7. That's so that's a review too, and that's also a game that has gotten very bad ports after the PS1 version. Because the PS1 version, I will actually give a 10 out of 10 rating for that one now. Because I do think the way that it resolves around the Lego characters is pretty awesome. Because I do think that this is the game that actually used the design limitation to its best. It was the best way to design a Final Fantasy game. Because when you are in the overhead view, you look like Lego characters and you run around, and the world look very small really when you are like this. But when you go into battle, you look realistic and the world expands. So this is probably the best visual design ever made in a video game. I think this is a very well crafted, limited game, very well made. But yeah, but only the PS1 version. I don't like how they added the stupid mouths and some other stuff, like the shadow looks so stupid in battle. It looks like a gray cloud thing instead of a black contrast thing. So my recommendation is get a Xebra Emulator on PC and just I can link my configuration guide on how to set up a Xebra Emulator if you wonder. I'm gonna put it in the description below. But yeah, just get a PS1 copy of Final Fantasy 7 and just get a Xebra Emulator. Don't bother buying from Square in terms of Final Fantasy 7 on Steam or the console remaster on consoles. They have the stupid mounts. It just doesn't look right. I mean, for example, one example is I mean, one cool thing about the original Final Fantasy 7 on PS1 is how your character is more low resolution compared to the artwork that you run around in. One reason why this looks good is because it kind of stands out. Because your character isn't meant to stand out. It looks like Lego characters. Why would you want to focus on that? And so the power is really just the way the artwork looks when you look more limited, and you know, you're more low resolution in terms of the character. So it actually makes the game looks very well because of this. And that's why what I mean is why Final Fantasy 7 is the best designed Final Fantasy 7, because of this limitations and the genius graphics composing of Final Fantasy 7 on PS1 original. And also a nitpick though, I don't like how the cloud looks sappy in the PC or console remaster avatar. There's just something about it. But yeah, that may be a small nitpick on me though. I just think the PS1 looked a little better on that one. But yeah, but the point is, get the PS1. Don't get the PC or don't get the console remastered. You know, if it's on sale, just buy a PS1 copy on eBay or something, and just get a Xebra Emulator and play it like that, if you don't own a PS1 at least. Yeah. So 10 out of 10 of a PS1 original. If I were to rate PC and console remasters, I would give it a 3 out of 10 because it's horrible. Maybe 3 out of 10 is a little bit harsh criticism. Let me think here. Nah, 3 out of 10. That's fair enough. It's not good. Trust me. So yeah, basically PS1 10 out of 10, and the console remastered or PC port a 3 out of 10. It's horrible. Don't get it. Now Final Fantasy 8. That's the last review I'm gonna make on this summary review. Basically, Final Fantasy 8. I actually do think that the PC visually is better than PS1 on that one. I think the way that the PC port could be better, originally at least, is basically how to say it. Basically, have the vibration function of the PS1 analog controller, and also have analog support, and also have the soundtrack from PS1, the stereo soundtrack instead of MIDI files. But other than that, but yeah, in terms of visuals, I would stick with PC one. That actually helped the game, in compared to Final Fantasy 7 PC port, which didn't help at all. It just ruined it. in terms of the design of it. But yeah, Final Fantasy 8 PC port is very well in terms of the visuals. So I do think the PS1 and PC are actually equally good here of the Final Fantasy 8 game. The original one, and not the remastered. I've heard bad things about it, so I'm not going to review Final Fantasy 8 remastered because I haven't played it, but I've heard bad things on the PC port at least. No widescreen support and all that. So just judging, I will not get a remastered version of Final Fantasy 8, at least from what I heard. At least if you want to have a good time with the game, at least. Yeah, I mean, there's some argument whether the design decision of Squall is good, but or some people that prefer a different experience, but that's subjective here. In general, though, I heard that you shouldn't get that one. You should just, yeah. I heard the original is overall the best, the defined version, basically. So yeah, I'm just gonna review the original one and not bother with the remaster because I haven't played it. So this is not gonna cover that one. But basically, in terms of the PC and PS1 original, yeah, I think. Let me think here. I mean, 10 out of 10 because I do think the innovation. I mean, maybe PC won't get a 9 out of 10, and the PS1 gets. Yeah, I would say a 9 out of 10 maybe, because there are some flaws. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 because it's not perfect, but it is almost perfect, I think. Basically, yeah, basically the PS1, I do think I mean, I understand that it was the PS1 and you couldn't do better, because maybe they didn't know how to do high resolution character on Final Fantasy 8, because that game actually looks good with high resolution character actually, so this one actually doesn't hurt the game if you have high resolution character. So that's why PC port is actually good here. And the shadows is also well made too, so it's not like they were lazy like the Final Fantasy 7 PC port. They actually did well on everything in terms of graphics and visually on the Final Fantasy 8 PC port. So yeah, so in general, the visuals in PS1 is definitely the PS1 graphics. So, and that's why you hear much jokes on it online, because people use the PS1 version, and that's because it has low resolution, and that's why they look a little bit far off when you look at them from a distance. Yeah. Compare the PC port, where they actually have more faces, and they kind of look more. They have more high resolution, so you can actually look at their face more visually, so it looks more right. But yeah, 9 out of 10 I think is fair on both of those, both PS1 and PC. I just think there's something they could have done to make both of them seem enjoyable. So basically the best PC port would honestly be everything from PS1 excluding the visuals. Just keep the visuals from the PC original for Final Fantasy 8, and that would be the perfect port in my view. So yeah, 9 out of 10 on both PS1 and PC port of Final Fantasy 8 original. So, okay, so that concludes my review summary of Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 8. Yeah, I do hope this helped you pick what is the recommended Final Fantasy. And I guess I skipped the PSP ports of Final Fantasy 4 because I don't think I should comment on that one. I mean, I don't really have any comment on that one, really. I just don't care. I mean, I don't think that it's bad or good. I just think it's mediocre. If I were to give it a sort of like a rating on it, mediocre would be the PSP version of Final Fantasy 4, the complete collection. But some may disagree. Yeah, I'm a little sure on that one, but I'm just gonna go with mediocre. I just didn't think it was awful, but it wasn't like something wow either. But yeah, so that's my final review of Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 8. Yeah, tell me what you think. Let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree. So that was a little long video here. So yeah, thank you for listening to this video here, and bye.